scientists try to make sense of a recently declassified report of the deaths of 23 Russian troops. Instantly transformed into pillars of rock during a battle with what was claimed to be alien creatures wielding a deadly weapon.
Supposedly, this energy source took the biology of the person and turned them into stone.
The whole thing was supposedly witnessed by a couple of soldiers who were hiding behind trees and were thus unaffected by the death rays.
Certainly something that could transmute living flesh into stone that quickly is beyond our experience.
According to the top-secret report, the petrified soldiers, as well as the wreckage of the craft that they shot down, were taken to a secret laboratory outside Moscow. Russian scientists determined they had been turned into a substance like limestone. If true, could the Kremlin now possess otherworldly weapon technology? But some analysts say there may be another explanation.
It's highly unlikely that the Russians have discovered some kind of alien technology or materials.
The KGB does have a history of either covering up certain events or perhaps misdirection, or perhaps maybe exaggerate and change the facts of a story to keep the real events from actually being learned outside.
If we're going to ask the question, can you turn a living being instantly into stone? I think it helps to go back and look at how the petrification that we know about functions.
Fossilization is the most widely known process that turns organic matter into stone, but is seemingly hard to weaponize as the transformation is incredibly slow.
The natural process that we see occurs over millions of years. This is not a fast process at all, but the report involves the transmutation happening almost instantaneously. Are there things that we could do, though, to speed up the petrification process and make it happen on a more human timescale instead of millions of years?
A clue might lie in a mysterious place hidden in England's rolling hills. A place said to be cursed by the devil.
If you want to see something turn to stone before your very eyes, there's a place in northern England called the Petrifying Well.
For centuries, locals lived with the fear that touching the well's water would turn them to stone.
If you put an object into the flowing water over the course of a month or two, the stone will deposit, almost like something out of The Lord of the Rings.
The beguiling process is completely indiscriminate, petrifying dead animals, a bicycle, and even John Wayne's hat.
It does make you wonder, could you stand under the waterfall long enough to become encrusted with stone?
Although the process is quicker than fossilization, it doesn't match what is said to have happened to the soldiers in Siberia.
These objects have been coated in stone. The interior is still the same, so it's just an incrustation. Those soldiers were completely stone inside and out.
Scientists in Washington State have made a breakthrough in the bizarre science of petrification that could hold the answer.
The scientists took a cube of wood, soaked it in acid for 2 days, and then they put it into a silica solution for another 2 days, and then baked it at 1400 degrees Celsius, and voila.
Rather than burning, the wood reacts with the acid and silicon, transforming into the extremely hard ceramic silicon carbide. The entire process takes just 5 days, a massive ramping up of the fossilization process.
It's still not fast enough to explain what went on with the reported soldiers being turned to stone.
Can that process be sped up so they can happen in a couple of seconds or instantaneously?
But the ceramic silicon carbide looks nothing like the limestone-like substance described in the report. A scientific discovery made in Japan in 2019 suggests it could be some exotic biological weapon. A new virus was found living in a hot spring. Acanthamoeba castellani. But it's been nicknamed the Medusa virus because of its similarities to the famous Greek mythological monster with snakes for hair and a deadly gaze.
Anybody who saw her face and the snakes were, well, they turned to stone.
Just like in the myth, when the Medusa virus comes in contact with its victims, it leaves them encased in a stone-like shell.
What's left behind is sort of a stone image of the living creature.
The Medusa virus discovered in Japan so far seems only to affect amoeba. But is it possible an advanced technology could weaponize a virus like this and amplify it to petrify humans, as described in the recently declassified report?
Really reminiscent of what we hear in old myths and legends. The techniques aren't sufficient to turn living human beings into stone instantaneously like that.
The bright flash detailed in the report appears to match the explosive signature of the world's most powerful weapons. Weapons the Russians test in remote locations like Siberia.
Maybe there was something that went off that was so intense in heat, it vaporized all the water in those soldiers, turning them to stone.
A nuclear explosion, if you're close enough, will flash incinerate you.
Some suggest that what really happened in Siberia was a nuclear accident. Historical records reveal it would not be the first.
There were reports soldiers being killed as a result of nuclear tests in remote regions where there was nobody to witness that. Thousands of troops were exposed to radiation during nuclear tests.
James Oberg has investigated Russian military technology cover-ups for over 20 years. He finds the Kremlin often uses accounts of aliens as cover stories.
From my own studies, many of the famous UFO stories from Russia in the 60s were directly caused by tests of Russian weapons.
March 1967. Thousands of Soviet citizens from Ukraine to the Caucasus report seeing strange crescent-shaped lights in the sky. Similar sightings continue through the spring of 1968 and are reported in newspapers and on television across the Soviet Union. But in fact, this was an illegal space-to-ground nuclear weapon system being tested by the Soviets.
The weapons are designed for a surprise first-strike attack on the U.S. Some of them occurred at twilight with the sky dark, but with the rocket plume illuminated. People on the ground saw astonishing-looking shapes in the sky that they reported as flying saucers. Some of those famous ones are still online on the internet as genuine UFOs certified by the Russian Academy of Sciences.
But something doesn't make sense. If the KGB report about aliens in an alien craft was meant to throw people off the scent, why was the report not made public? The description of these aliens and of the incident in which Russian soldiers were turned into stone, all of this was in a top-secret report. It cannot be dismissed as a mere cover story.
The Russian media never reported openly. On this level, the government definitely suppressed these reports.
Russia today remains as secretive as ever. The truth of what happened in the Siberian wilderness may never be fully revealed. There remains the possibility that Russia, which is still a military superpower, possesses a secret weapon that can turn men into stone, whether developed by its own scientists or stumbled upon from elsewhere.